Hello and welcome to September's Feature of the Month. I'm Kevin Mosley, Director of Customer Care, and today we're talking about Azure and how you can use it for single sign-on for your address manager. The ability of Address Manager to integrate with your Azure SSO environment means that the ability of adding users is much quicker and more efficient than before. You don't have to create a user account on your Address Manager that duplicates one that you already have in your Windows environment. This means that granting user permissions is much more streamlined and much more effective. So let's get into a demo and show how to configure this great feature. The first step in configuring Azure Single Sign-On is to create what's known as an enterprise application within Azure. I've already created one called KM Azure SSO Testing, but for you to start that process, you would click on New Application and create your own application, and then integrate any other application that you don't find in the gallery. So since I have walked through that, I'm going to click here. And this is where you will set up the users that can be used to log into Address Manager. And in this case, you'll see that my IT department has provided me this BCCS-KM-Azure-SSO users. Any users placed into that group will be allowed to log in to our Address Manager. So that completes setting up the Azure part of the login process and what users will be allowed to log in. So next step, we're going to show how you have to get information from the BAM, put it into Azure, and then configure SSO from there. To complete configuration of the Azure application, there's a few things that we need. And one is information from the Address Manager. Now there's two pieces of information that we're going to need. First is the basic SAML configuration, and we'll click on the SAML SP. And you'll see these URLs here, entity ID, consume URL, and single logout URL. And that corresponds with the SAML configuration here. And so the next part is we need to understand what is going to be submitted as a valid claim, in this case, the user group. And so I'm going to click on here on the SAML user groups, and we're going to configure a few things. One is we're going to use groups assigned to the application. That's that Azure SSO group that I showed earlier. Now, the other part that we need to validate is that the group name is group and that the namespace is correct. Now we can get this namespace from the SAML IDP configuration tab, and it is listed here. Now one thing to note is you'll see this one ends in group. We want it to remove that /group and just put the name here. And when we hit save, you'll see that it's actually listed here with the correct URL. Again, so now we'll need the SAML certificates, which we can use either the App Federation metadata URL, or you can download the XML here and import it that way. To import that information, we'll click on either File or URL, and then you click Upload. And what that does is it populates these three fields here. And then it'll also prompt you to authenticate the certificate that's provided by Azure. And so now that we have done all of those steps, we should be able to validate our SSO configuration, which we can click Test SSO Login. And as you'll see, it pops up the normal login screen that you'll see from your Azure SSO provider. So now I'm going to copy my username to test. Going to click next. I will enter the login, password, click next. It'll now pop up my two-factor authentication, which I will approve. And as you can see, the button has turned green. Now that we've validated the test, let's see what this looks like in practice. Now, when I click on the button here to log out, it's going to log me out. Now my cloud credentials from Azure are cached. So when I click on Login with SSO, you're going to see it just logs me right in. And so now I have authenticated as, you can see, my Now Portal account. And so to go over this and let you see the entire process of what your customers will see, I'm going to say Login with SSO. Copy my password real quick. I'm going to say kmosley@bc. Next. Paste. Say never for Chrome to remember. As you can see, the Duo is coming up, which is my two-factor. I click approve. And now I have logged in as my Azure SSO user. So that's how you configure Azure SSO in a nutshell. And now that you have done that, you can add additional users to that group and they'll be able to log in using Address Manager. Thank you for joining me for September's Feature of the Month. I hope you enjoyed learning about how Address Manager can integrate with your existing Azure SSO environment and how it can help streamline your workflows and make you much more efficient when adding users to Address Manager. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next month.